Hey everybody, here in Oklahoma, and I ran into one of my good friends, Pastor Gary McKibben from Belfast, right?
Yeah.
And we met him a couple years ago when we were in Ireland, and he's a remnant pastor there in Ireland, and he does good work. He's doing prophecy, doing all the kinds of things that we do here in the United States, and I wanted to pick his brain a little bit. Now, you're a pastor. What's the name of the church again?
Victory Church, Belfast.
Victory Church, Belfast.
Yeah.
Okay, so the couple things I wanted to pick your brain at, because we're here on the other side of the pond, and we're watching things develop in Europe that's like, I'm shaking my head, and
Yeah.
wow, okay, so I wanted to get your take on a couple things. So I see that the UK wants to institute a digital identification.
Yes.
Okay, help us in America understand what the implications for that is. When do they introduce? When does this start?
Well, the general sort of speech that was given by Keir Starmer was that it would be by the end of this parliamentary session,
Okay.
which will be July of 2029. Now, it's got very little support from the populace, but that doesn't seem to be stopping anything. So there was a petition that went out, and I think within about 7 days it had almost 3 million people sign it.
Okay.
Which is unprecedented, and if it has anything from 10,000 to 100,000 sign it has to be heard in Parliament.
Okay.
So on October 2nd, they came back and they said, we've heard the petition, and we're going to go ahead and put in a digital ID, and it'll be for the benefit of everyone.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's the response. Wow. So it doesn't matter what the populists are looking for. It doesn't matter what the voters are looking for. This government that we have in the UK is the most detached government from the ground consensus. And when we talk about digital IDs, you know, there's 21 countries in the last year have introduced digital IDs. It didn't catch us by surprise. Well, it certainly didn't catch our ministry by surprise.
Yeah.
We've been talking, if you go back to last year, Christmas of last year, there was an advert put on our television, and it was an individual walking up to a pub counter with his wallet. He opens up his wallet and everything falls out, including his paper ID. And then the speaker comes on scene and says, to save you this type of embarrassment in the future, this time next year you will have a digital ID. So we knew this was coming. And one of the things that I talked to Pastor Tom Hughes about this a few months ago, that when we as a church, you have to be a registered company to be a church. And as a registered company, by the 18th of November this year, we already knew that all directors of the company have to have a digital identification.
Wow.
So it's been carrot and stick, and we're now coming into the stick element of this. And it's very interesting because where this comes from is not Keir Starmer himself, who I am not sure can tie his own shoelaces, and I mean that with the utmost respect. This comes from Tony Blair.
Tony Blair, globalist.
Yeah. So the Tony Blair Institute, Tony Blair himself, when he was in charge, tried to institute this in 2009. And in 2017, his organizations, which were the Tony Blair Faith Institute, the Tony Blair Global Governance Collective, and the Tony Blair Associates, all became the Tony Blair Institute.
Okay.
And they're intrinsically linked with this government. So his campaign manager, McFadden, his wife works for the Tony Blair Institute, so the campaign manager for Keir Starmer.
Okay.
And where they get their influence from, and this is where it kind of shakes up, is from here.
From here?
Yes. So Tony Blair's and the Tony Blair Institute's biggest patron is Larry Ellison.
Oh, okay, that totally makes sense. Larry Ellison, yeah, totally.
So he invested in 2021 $250 million into the Tony Blair Institute. All for the idea of collective data.
Yeah.
So where the UK is becoming a test case for is because we have something called the National Health Service, which is, it's kind of like a really down the road version of Medicare. We've been at it for years. And within the National Health Service, there's a database, and this database has so much information on everyone. Larry Ellison at the World Government Summit was being interviewed by Tony Blair, and he asked him what's going on in the world. And Larry Ellison says that we're reaching a point of super artificial intelligence faster than anybody knows. So Blair says, what do we do in response to this?
Yeah.
And he says, every government has to collectivize the data.
Yeah.
So he's interested in the NHS. We already know other individuals like Peter Thiel. Palantir is used within the NHS. And then after that interview, the Tony Blair Institute came out 2 weeks later and said, what the world governments need to do is they need to start collectivizing data to supply the growth of super artificial intelligence. That's the motive behind digital identification. And it's the first step on the ladder for this.
Sure. So you get the digital identification, then what comes behind that? Because what's brewing in this?
So if you take at face value what Keir Starmer says, he says this is to stop immigration.
Right.
Illegal immigration.
Right.
Which is nonsense.
It is,
right?
Right.
It's not going to do anything for illegal immigration. They're not going to go along and be somehow stopped because they don't have a digital ID.
Right.
He was recently on an interview, and on the interview, he some people say he slipped up. I think he was just being blatant and has no sort of attitude as to what the population want.
Yeah.
So he said that this digital identification will allow for you to access your money freely or not access your money.
Oh.
So there's where it all lies.
Yeah, sure.
It's a control element.
Yeah.
For me, I looked into the background with this. So this goes into the likes of tokenization from BlackRock, but also the Bank of International Settlements. So we're hearing right now that all these central banks talking about we need digital identification to enable a new economic system. So they're taking their onus from the Bank of International Settlements, which is very interesting because this is a bank that most of the population aren't aware of. But what they're made up from is 60 central banks, and they dictate the policies. So they believe that everything in the world needs to be tokenized, including you and I.
Yeah, sure.
It's called a soul-bound token, so that we are bound to what they call a world ledger. Wow. Now, this is where we're entering into beast system area, right? Territory. A world ledger where everything and everyone is categorized on this ledger. This is the dream of the Bank of International Settlements, which Larry Ellison, Tony Blair, Keir Starmer are all signing up to.
Sure.
Now, my background is in history.
Yeah.
And when you take the Bank of International Settlements as an entity on its own, they were formed in January 1930. Okay. And they were initially formed. Sorry if I'm talking too long, but...
You're good. You're good. It's fascinating.
They were initially formed to sort of steward over reparations from World War I for Germany.
Okay.
So Germany to pay all these reparations.
Okay.
However, they didn't act like that. In fact, they were big supporters of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime.
Oh, boy.
So when you look at... Heinrich Himmler started the thing called the Friends of the Fuhrer to finance a future Nazi regime later on, so a future global regime.
Wow.
So they had the Friends of the Fuhrer. They became part of the Bank of International Settlements. The head of the Reich Bank, the Nazi bank, Hilmar Schacht, was one of the founding members of the Bank of International Settlements. Emil Pohl, the vice president of the Reich Bank, was the individual who came and says, the Bank of International Settlements is the first and only foreign branch of the Reich Bank. So it is the continuation of what we saw back in the 1930s.
Wow.
And it's this continuation of a pursuit toward globalism. Yeah. This was the bank that facilitated the gold taken from the teeth of Holocaust victims to be used for the Nazi purpose.
Wow, Gary, that's crazy.
It goes even further. Czechoslovakia, whenever Hitler was invading Czechoslovakia had the bright idea, says, well, we've got gold and we don't want that to go to the Nazi regime, so let's put it in the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements. So Hitler invades and he goes to the Bank of International Settlements, says, I want that, and they go, here you go, that'll fund your... Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And these are the individuals funding and facilitating digital IDs, biometric identification, central bank digital currency development. Sure. All of it is purposefully being put into place.
Wow. So let me ask you this. There's folks like you, there's remnant believers that understand this is going on. So how do the rest of Europeans in the UK, let's just talk about the UK, do they see this as, hey, this is a good thing? Or do they say, hey, this is a threat to my privacy, national security? how are Europeans seeing this as a whole?
So if you split it between the Anglosphere and Europe, so Britain is all against it.
Okay.
Right. So the last poll I saw was 97% do not want this.
97.
97%.
Wow.
Now, Europe is different. So what we have individuals now who travel from, and they visit our church from the Netherlands, from Denmark, and they've already got digital identification
Do they
in
really?
process. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So they're already beholden to this, but there seems to be a different attitude, and that's my opinion looking at it. When Europe seems to be more docile in terms of a centralized government,
okay.
right? So they're kind of like, well, Brussels, you take care of all of that. There is resistance on the ground with Britain.
Okay.
And there are people who think that this won't pass the two parliamentary houses. So you've got the House of Commons and the House of Lords.
Okay.
Now, Keir Starmer's government has 411 seats out of 605 in the House of Commons. Okay. So it's very likely that it will go through there.
Right.
It could be delayed in the House of Lords. Where I think this will come into play, I believe, and it might be a little bit of conjecture, I believe there will be a catastrophic point to force the hand of the populace, right? So the last time we had a papers, please moment in Britain was World War II.
Yeah.
So if you look at what's happening behind the scenes, Britain under Keir Starmer signed up to the coalition of the willing, right? These are the individual countries that came together with the likes of Emmanuel Macron, and they said, you know what? The Ukraine-Russia situation, we need to get involved. We need to put boots on the ground in Ukraine. We need to have soldiers there. We need to have our planes in the air. And it's not done for this garnering of peace. In fact, Emmanuel Macron came out and said, March 2026, French hospitals need to be prepared for the battlefield. So they're trying to put that into operation right now.
Wow.
So I have this theory that I believe that there is resistance to a digital ID, but if everybody is worried about conflict, war, even if it's an economic issue, then they will become more docile to what the government they're pushing in.
Well, and Gary, we just saw this with the vaccines, the COVID shutdowns. We saw the whole world go docile, do exactly what they were told to do, take an experimental injection. So, I mean, you spring on another crisis like a war or something, and you can watch that same pattern happen again. That's what's scary about this.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we see the nefarious details behind the scenes, and they're always going to push it. Well, this is for immigration, illegal. It's like, come on, dude. They're going to take people's control away, basically. Okay, so do the elites of Europe, and you would know this better, are they beholden more to a globalist mindset rather than caring about their own people on the ground? I don't. In America we have the motto now with Trump in there, America first, and we want to take care of our own place and our own people. But I'm not seeing the same thing with the European elites. No. So what are they loyal to, Gary?
If I were to take a guess, based on their own statements, Davos.
Okay.
So Keir Starmer, before he came into power, he was in an interview and he said that his allegiance lay not in Westminster but in Davos, Switzerland. So that shows they're singing off the same hymn sheet. Wow. And it's purely globalism.
Sure.
And I think that the idea of this being, for instance, the idea digital IDs being introduced to stop immigration. If you take the basics of this, when Tony Blair tried to initiate digital IDs in 2009, it cost the taxpayers $5 billion. If they were to man the small boats coming over, at the minute, $5 billion, that's 50 times more than what it costs to man that for a year.
Right.
So they could actually put that money in, and that was wasted back in 2009. So there are some people that are concerned that regardless of this going in or not, it could bring financial ruin to the country.
Yeah, totally. So you mentioned immigration. I want to. That's the second question I want to.
Yeah.
So he says we're going to do this to immigration, and it's like, well, dude, you guys have been opening the flood doors for mass immigration to almost replacing your population.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to ask you. We're seeing absolute chaos break out in the streets in the UK, London, I see it in Paris. Islamic immigration, honestly, changing the face of Europe. What's happening with this? Is this a demographic intentional replacement? What is behind all this?
Yeah, well, if you say anything about this, you're considered right-wing. So to have any concern about open borders and all of that, you're considered right-wing. But it's not. This is the thing. This has been the dictate from the government. Brandish everybody a racist for not wanting even to mention this.
Right.
But I can speak from our personal experience. I was at lunch with people there, and we were talking about what it was like to grow up in Belfast during the Troubles.
Yeah.
I said that I didn't meet my first Catholic until I went to university.
Really?
And it's considered integration if you have Catholics and Protestants in the same school.
Is it really? Wow, didn't know
Now,
that.
the different contingent that we have now is I can go into a part of our city centre where I won't go near because everywhere, like there's parts that are sectioned off now that it's only Muslim.
Wow.
And that is the first time, probably this has been like a 5-year thing that I've really seen this.
Oh my goodness.
It's the first time that I, like in my lifetime, that I've experienced such a populist shift. And, you know, you go in and I'm looking at these, like, it's not to be cynical, but these businesses that they own or shops that they own, and I'm thinking, I know what the rates and the costs for those are. How does an immigrant afford that?
Right.
But it's everywhere, and you know, you wouldn't have. So we will go out in the street and witness, but there are certain areas that we will not go without security, without people around us.
I don't blame you.
You know,
some of the videos I see absolutely scare me. I'm looking at Paris, and I'm like, I don't recognize it.
Yeah.
I don't recognize London. And look, Gary, it's happening here in the United States. I mean, New York and Dearborn, Michigan, Minnesota, we're starting to have it now. Where does this go from here? Because you have Western civilization, and you coming up against Islamicism and Sharia law, and it's a clash of civilizations. And I'm hearing rumors, and again, I'm not advocating this, but I'm hearing rumors, hey, you know what, UK is on the brink of a civil war, and that's coming from one of the leading experts in civil war from London that said, every year we go like this, we're getting a 4% chance of having a civil war.
Yeah.
Is it really that? What's happening there with the people?
So, the big thing that I have seen, Christianity, we are told to turn the other cheek. Now the issue is that people take that to the nth degree and they take it out of context.
Exactly.
And what they do is, and what we've been taught to do from the government top down, is the Christian, you back off and leave that space because you don't want to initiate or push your views upon anyone else. And nature abhors a vacuum. So what we've noticed is that is taken up by certainly Islam.
Yeah.
And like I can think back even a couple of years I would have never have seen Islamic preaching on the streets of Belfast. Now we've seen it.
Wow.
Now we also see the pro-Palestinian movement is massive.
Yeah.
So combined with the sort of October 7th kind of catalyst for things, everything has exploded. Where if you're leftist, if you are, it's sort of the red-green alliance, right?
Yeah,
you're seeing all of that.
Absolutely.
And it means that Christianity tends to be the target, and that means Judeo-Christian principles as well. So we're pushed into the background. In Northern Ireland, our leadership is Sinn Féin. The Sinn Féin are the political wing of the IRA. And they are so anti-Christian, so anti-God, that I think it's certainly the pocket of the world that we live in is changing at an exponential rate. You know, this is where we've had since, in the last 5 years, abortion brought in. This is where you've seen the UK try and push abortion basically up to birth now. We're seeing all of this happen because they're chipping away at Judeo-Christian principles, and then they're pushing this in. And it doesn't make any logical sense. Like, how can LGBTQ principles align with Islam?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And how does that align with communism? But it's all partial together because it's got a common enemy.
Common enemy.
And that's us.
Yeah. And I'm afraid here in America, we're right on your heels. We're following you. Because had it not been for Trump, and I'm not saying he's a savior or anything,
Yeah.
but he's a non-globalist, obviously. He's a financial guy. But we're one administration away of popping the clutch and going
Yeah.
that direction too. Because if Kamala would have won, that's what she would have done. It seems like a lot of our left wants to follow the European elites in doing what they're doing. And I can't help but think, and of course you're into prophecy. Where does this lead? Where are we seeing really the stage setting for
Yeah.
prophecy? What is your opinion?
I think we are. I think with everything that's happening, the weakening of Judeo-Christian principles in the culture of the West, we're seeing Europe push to sort of a self-identification. Yesterday, Christine Lagarde, the head of the European Central Bank, came out and said, today is the opportunity for Europe to displace the American petrodollar as the
really?
world's reserve currency.
Interesting. Okay.
I watched, it was the champions meeting of the World Economic Forum back in June in China.
Okay.
And you had these economic experts stand up and talk, and they were all given a kind of consensus view of what is coming, which to me is just lining up with scripture.
Yeah.
They believe that there will be three economic powerhouses in the New World Order. America,
Okay.
which has taken kind of a America first policy in terms of economics. China, which got in early on pre-industrialization, so they're going to be the economic industrial powerhouse. And the European Union.
Ah.
Now, where they came off, and this is where it's really biblical for me, is because I believe Europe is the reconstituted Roman Empire
Sure.
in end times. Where they came off with this is they basically says that Europe doesn't have a chance to industrialize, nor can they isolate themselves. So their biggest option for economic advancement is totalitarianism.
Oh my goodness.
So
Yeah.
that's how far down the rabbit hole we've gone.
Oh boy. Wow. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
There you go. We're that close. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, and I'll leave you with this, 'cause I've taken you too much time here, but here we are living in these days, and I would hope that Christians and other believers hearing this would wake up.
Yeah.
But are you seeing anybody, this is the last question, and I'll leave you alone. Are you seeing any of this wake anyone up, or what?
I'm seeing it in dribs and drabs, and what I mean
Okay.
by that is that Amos 8:11 says that in the end times there will be a famine, but not of bread and water, but of the word of God.
That's right.
So what we're finding as a church ourselves is that people aren't maybe coming from the local community, but they are traveling in because they know they're going to be fed.
Yeah.
I also think that in terms of waking up to the digital ID, I am really, really surprised about the silence that you hear, metaphorically speaking, amongst the churches.
Sure. Totally.
So we've spoken about it, but there's so many churches that are just completely ignoring the subjects.
Yeah.
And they ignored the Charlie Kirk situation as
Totally.
well. And these are pivotal moments in which you've got to go, hold on a minute, is God trying to get my attention?
Yeah.
Is God trying to say this is a time that you've got to notice and be aware of, the season that you're in? And I think that there's unfortunately opposition to that in terms of the New Apostolic Reformation.
Great.
In terms of kind of this ignorant, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but ignorant Christianity that is just trying to tell you,
Yeah.
let's be happy and let's have, a great life here now.
Yeah,
that sort of
exactly. No, that's what we're seeing. And they don't want to be bothered by us warning them. But, that's the thing, I got to give you credit, and I want to tell the audience too, man. You're in the trenches, you're fighting, you're putting it out. And it's just like what we saw with Charlie Kirk. They didn't like what he said.
Yeah.
And all he was telling is the truth. And I think, guys like you and myself and other people here at this conference, we're the watchers on the wall. That's what you are. And like I preached earlier this morning, the silence from the pulpits is deafening. They're not talking about anything,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever the issue might be. So Gary, that's why we appreciate what you're doing. And we want people to know out there, especially you guys in Europe, name your church and where can they find you?
So we're Victory Church Belfast. We are about a mile from the city centre in Belfast. So if you're in Northern Ireland, you can travel there. We've also got a YouTube channel. You just type in my name, Pastor Gary McKibben. We're on Rumble, we're on Discord, we're on other things that I can't remember, Facebook, we're on all of that stuff.
Yeah. So he's on our church tracker. He is golden, man. And if you guys want to plug in, it's worth the travel. Because that's the new thing, Gary. Even in California, we got people traveling 4 or 5 hours to get to our church because they can't find like-minded people. And so guys, he's out there giving it all. He's in the trenches. He's fighting for you. He's one of the pastors that are fighting for you guys. And so I thank you so much, man. You're like finding gold, brother.
Oh, thank you.
Keep up the great work,
Thank
man.
you.
We
Thank
appreciate you. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Visit his website. He's got updates and things that he does, so he's phenomenal. He's great. He'll give you a good idea of what's happening in Europe. Anyway, we got to get going. Remember what the Lord said. When you see these things begin to happen, like what we just talked about, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time.